Welcome to Wildcat Science with Mrs. Haugo. This is human biology, and today we are in the lymphatic and immune system sections, chapter 16 and 17. Today we are talking about the immune system and how it tries to keep you safe. So you have to talk about infections with the immune system, and pathogens are everywhere. They are mostly bacteria and viruses that are trying to get into your body, and your body is trying to keep them out. So they do need a port of entry because your skin is a very effective barrier against pathogens. So any opening is a potential place where pathogens can come in. Your mouth, nose, ears, and eyes. And this is why people say, try not to touch your face because your hands have lots of germs on them. Also, any reproductive organs or digestive tracts, so your urethral openings, vaginal openings, cuts in the body, those will all be ports of entry that pathogens can enter. So when we're talking about pathogens, we are also concerned about the virulence, how the pathogen's ability to overcome your immune system and affects how bad the infection is. So the Ebola virus is much more virulent than the common cold virus. Also, we're concerned about dose. The number of pathogens that invaded the body affects how bad the infection is. Coming in contact with 100 viruses is not as bad as coming in contact with 1,000 viruses. So how does your body take care of these pathogens? So first we're going to talk about your non-specific immunity. It doesn't matter what pathogen it is going to try to get rid of it. These are the parts of the immune system that are effective against all pathogens. So the first line of defense are barriers, just simply keeping things out. Your skin covers most of your body and it is extremely effective. If you have a burn victim, one of the major things we're worried about is pathogens getting through because that skin has been compromised. Also, your mucous membranes are very effective at trapping and getting rid of bacteria. So the mucous membranes line your ear and they line your nose and your throat and your esophagus and all parts of the digestive and reproductive organs. So body secretions also have enzymes that help fight off pathogens. Your tears, your sweat, your saliva, and others. Then, if something does get in, you have reflexes to get it out. Coughing and sneezing are reflexes that help if you've inhaled a pathogen. Vomiting and diarrhea are to help if you have a pathogen in your digestive tract, and it's basically like, get it out now, it's going to do damage. And that's what vomiting and diarrhea does. So a major player in your immune system are your leukocytes, or your white blood cells. So let's preview your blood cells. So we've already talked about red blood cells, or your erythrocytes, and those we know carry oxygen. We have also talked about platelets or thrombocytes, and their job is to help with blood clotting. And then the rest of this are your leukocytes, white blood cells, lymphocytes, eosinophils, monocytes, neutrophils, and basophils. So taking a look at where all these blood cells come from, so we start out with a multipotent or multipotential hematopoietic stem cell. And as you remember from biology, stem cells are cells that have the ability to become other types of cells. So basically, this cell can become any type of blood cell. And that splits into a common myeloid progenitor or a common lymphoid progenitor, which can become thrombocytes, erythrocytes, or several types of leukocytes, white blood cells, mast cells, basophils, neutrophils, eosinophils, and monocytes, which mature into macrophages. And we will hear more about the macrophages later. Going back up to the beginning, that stem cell also could have gone through mitosis and become a common lymphoid progenitor, which makes lymphocytes, which are a type of leukocyte, white blood cell, natural killer cells, and your T lymphocyte and your B lymphocyte, which we will talk about more later. So if a pathogen does get into your body, we need to go to the second line of defense, your internal nonspecific response. This, like I said, comes into effect when pathogens get past the barriers. And phagocytosis is an important part here. That's when leukocytes take in and destroy pathogens. This also happens with worn out body cells and cancerous cells. So your neutrophils and macrophages, if you remember the picture from earlier, are leukocytes that will do this. And they will literally just engulf and then digest the pathogen. So then your natural killer cells, if you remember, those were a type of lymphocyte that recognizes abnormal body cells like cancerous cells or cells infected with viruses and kills them. Hank Green refers to this as mercy killing. Inflammation is another type of nonspecific internal response that we are all familiar with. So this is a nonspecific defense response to friction, wounds, allergens, pathogens, and any other things that cause inflammation. So this is when damaged tissue will release histamine, which is a signal that causes local blood vessels to dilate, which then attracts leukocytes. So to back it up, inflammation is any time when you have redness and swelling. Maybe you sprained an ankle, maybe you had a cut and you notice that it's hot and red. Those are all examples of inflammation. Okay, so then the blood vessels dilate, which means there's more blood flow coming. And also the histamine told the leukocytes, the white blood cells, to come on over, something's wrong. So the increased blood flow is the reason for that heat and redness in a place with inflammation. Also, there are messages for the local blood vessels to become leaky. So the leukocytes, so they actually the cells separate a little bit in the blood vessels, and the leukocytes and blood plasma can leave the vessels and go to the damaged tissue. So all that extra fluid leaving the blood vessels and going into the tissue causes swelling, and all that swelling can push on pain receptors and cause pain. So some symptoms of inflammation are redness, heat, pain, and swelling, and those are the reasons for those. Also a fun thing is pus is actually blood plasma, and then a lot of dead leukocytes that have been fighting the infection and then get used up and die, and also some dead pathogens. There is a nice picture on page 382 of your book. Fever is another nonspecific strategy for your body to fight off pathogens. So why does your body get a fever? It's actually your body doing this, not the pathogens causing the fever. So leukocytes that are fighting off infections release chemicals that raise your body temperature. Why do they do this? Well, increased temperature increases the metabolism of the leukocytes and makes them more efficient at fighting off the pathogens. So fevers are often good because it is a sign that your body is working to kill off the pathogens, and it itself does not need to be medicated. So a low-grade fever, 99, 100, 101, 102 even, does not itself need to be medicated. You don't have to get the fever down because it is your body trying to work hard to get rid of the pathogens. So inflammation and fever are two strategies that you're very familiar with. The next two, including interferon, happens all the time in your body, but you probably haven't heard of it. It is a nonspecific strategy to fight infections, and certain cells infected with viruses release a chemical called interferon, which stops nearby cells from producing viruses. So basically, it's letting the neighbor cells know that something is wrong and you need to do something about it. So it's a really good strategy for not letting the infection spread. So interferons have actually been researched and isolated and used medically to fight certain viruses and cancers. And looking at a picture here, so we have a virus has infected this cell, and it has made copies of itself, and then all these viruses are going on to other cells to infect those cells. But your cell does have a trick up its sleeve. It will make this interferon, this chemical messenger, that goes to the next cell and tells that cell, like, hey, something's wrong, you need to stop that. And it makes these antiviral proteins that just chop up the virus before it has time to infect the cell. Okay, our next section is complement, and that is the last nonspecific strategy we're going to talk about. And it is a protein that is always found in your blood. It just circulates around in your blood. It needs to be activated, and when this protein is activated, it will help phagocytes recognize pathogens. And if you remember, the phagocytes are the ones that will engulf and then destroy pathogens. It can also destroy pathogens itself. It can promote inflammation, and we talked about how inflammation is your body's strategy to fight pathogens and localize that attack. It can also attract phagocytes to an area. So here is a picture of the complement protein going into a bacteria and actually destroying that bacteria itself by making it leaky, and then the cell wall, or the cell membrane, excuse me, has been compromised, and the bacteria cannot maintain homeostasis and it bursts. Those are the nonspecific strategies your body uses to attack or keep out pathogens. In the next video, we're going to talk about your specific immunity, including antibodies, and how your body fights off pathogens that way. Okay, see you next time.